Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the afternoon session of the Financing Energy Efficiency in Germany, France and Austria conference as part of the series of the Sustainable Energy Investment Forum series. This time we're meeting here in Frankfurt, and I would not only like to welcome you in the room. In fact, this session on buildings efficiency is also being live streamed on the web. So I don't know how many people are watching us at the moment on the World Wide Web, but I do hope that there are some who will be watching us and will follow this session. So welcome to all of you out there, wherever you are as well. My name is Oliver Rapf. I will moderate this session. And when we talk about efficiency investments and the challenge of efficiency investments in the building sector, we often meet a lot of barriers. My own organization, BPIE, the Buildings Performance Institute Europe, has done a lot of analysis on the barriers, but we've also done a lot of analysis on the solutions how to overcome the barriers. And I'm very happy that in this session this afternoon, we're not going to focus so much on the barriers, but rather on the solutions which are being implemented as we speak, or in some cases have even been implemented for many, many years in the various member states we're covering in that session. So, of course, we will look at one or the other barrier as well. When we talk about solutions, we need to be aware of the barriers, but it's really about solutions. And our first presentation will be given by Dr. Daniel Wissmann, who's from the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy in Germany, the Federal Ministry in Berlin. And he is working in the division dealing with energy efficiency and heat in the industrial and commercial sectors, and he worked in consulting before. So he is really not only a policy maker, he's really also a person of, well, practical advice to companies and decision makers. And he has received his PhD from the LMU in Munich. So I'm very happy to welcome him as the first speaker in this session. I will ask, of course, all the speakers to keep to their time, which is 15 minutes, because if you stick to your time allocation, we will have the time to have a meaningful and deep discussion after all the presentations with the audience. So, Dr. Wissmann, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
So, thanks for joining the session. Thanks to the organizers. So I want to talk about facilitating energy performance in Germany. And I want to talk first about what is energy performance contracting. I know that probably many of you are aware with this, but our experience also is that many times people don't know what it is, and sometimes I think it's good to be on the same page. Then I want to talk a little bit about the legal framework in Germany, how EPC is treated legally in the Länder, most of all. And then finally, how we, the ministry, and other institutions support energy performance contracting in Germany. So maybe if you want to leave the room now, let me just give you 3 messages that I think are important today. So I think EPC can be a really interesting tool to reduce transaction costs. Second, it's not only a financing tool. People often misunderstand that. And third, to all the investors here, we think it's an interesting investment opportunity with a potentially attractive return on investment. So let me start how energy performance contracting fits into the big picture. So we're all aware we want to save the world, so we need to decarbonize the building sector, particularly, and as of 2014, 40% of final end energy is consumed by buildings. Our goals are here that we reach a reduction by 40% by 2030 in terms of CO2, and to have a nearly zero building stock by 2050. Our strategy is to have efficiency first. We know that it's cheaper to invest in efficiency than to produce energy. So what we aim for is a reduction in, sorry, I need to put this a bit more up. A reduction in the primary energy use of 80% by 2050. That's a very ambitious goal. But at the same time, we want to stress the point that this is actually, this raises a lot of economic opportunities. This is not only a challenge, this is not only cost, but these are many highly efficient investment projects, and energy performance contracting can be one of those tools to achieve that. Sorry, is there another microphone? I can hand in my hand? Or, oh, I can just, okay. Okay, that's much better to be here. Okay. So just quickly, how does energy performance contracting work? Don't know if I have a pointer here, but basically, if you're a building owner and your initial energy costs are here, maybe they rise each year, and then at some point you decide, let's do energy performance contracting. So a contractor comes in to your buildings, does an investment that helps you to be much more energy efficient, and that drives down the energy cost to, say, that level. So there's a piece of cake here that you, as a building owner, can share with the contractor. So out of these savings, you pay some contracting rates to the contractor, to the energy service company, and you, from the start of the project, as a buildings owner, you can also already reap some savings. Then the EPC contract is running, and mostly we're talking about 7 to 15 years. And after that period, the contractor has financed his or her investment cost, his profits, of course, also. And then you, as a building owner, you will reap the entire savings for yourself and the rest. Okay, so that's a really interesting, attractive approach. And many people at this point ask us, well, why do EPC instead of doing it yourself? So I listed a couple of advantages or aspects where energy performance contracting really can be beneficial. So if you think about the planning and tendering of a project, say you are the mayor of a municipality and you need to invest in energy efficiency in a school, in a swimming pool, and so on. You need substantial manpower and know-how to plan such projects. And you also need to specify the tender in a very detailed way. While if you use energy performance contracting, you let the ESCOs come up with their ideas, with their proposals. They come to your building and they look at the buildings, and then they'll come up with ideas what to change, what to insulate, what energy management and so on to put in place. So substantial less manpower is needed for municipalities or buildings owners. What about the financing and saving? Well, if you do it yourself, the entire investment costs occur upfront today, and the savings occur later. If you choose energy performance contracting, you have guaranteed, and that's important, guaranteed savings from day one. If you, as a building owner, if you have a lot of cash, if you have a good credit worthiness, you can also share the investment cost and reduce the contracting rate or contracting duration. What about the scope of the measures? If you do it yourself, often what you do is you go step by step. You exchange one boiler, the next year, 2 years after, you exchange windows, and so on and so on and so on. In the case of the energy performance contracting, they have a much more ambitious and holistic approach. They look at the whole building, they choose the measures that will reap the whole the whole efficiency optimization benefits. And if you wish, as a buildings owner, as a municipality, say you need to renovate your swimming pool, you can also combine these energy efficiency investments with regular renovations of the building. This is called EPC+. In terms of operations management, experience shows that an ESCO, because he has an economic incentive to optimize energy flows with his client, can usually reach much higher energy efficiency rates than if you do it yourself. And finally, the investment and operational risk in the case of self-investment is entirely with the building's owner, while if you perform EPC, it's with the ESCO who guarantees the savings. So if the ESCO can't deliver on the promised savings, he still has to pay you. Okay? So I brought for us some example from a little small community in the Black Forest. They performed energy performance contracting, implemented some measures, replacement of oil and fired gas boiler, lighting, and so on. The investment in total was 1.1 million. In this case, the municipality co-financed part of this investment, and the ESCO guaranteed savings of 70% of the original energy cost, so huge, substantial efficiency gains here. Contract duration was 15 years, and up to 200 tons of CO2 could be saved annually. And then you can read here the statement of the mayor that actually emphasizes that the ESCO took over all the planning and thinking, and that was a huge relief for the staff of this municipality. So how do we, as a ministry, as the government, support the EPC market? So there are estimates, and they have been named before, that the ESCO, the energy contracting market is about 8 billion euros in Germany. But to be fair, only a small portion of this 8 billion is due to energy performance contracting. Mostly is delivery and contracting delivery energy. So we think that EPC is still far below its potential. Faces a lot of legal, also cultural barriers, and just plainly a lack of knowledge of this instrument. We think that the focus on municipalities is worthwhile. They are the ideal contracting partner. It's because they have a long-term orientation. They often lack the staff, the know-how to tackle these huge efficiency investment projects, and therefore they are an ideal partner for ESCOs. The federal government's efforts to improve EPC market conditions are several. So first of all, what we do is we support consulting services. So if a company or a municipality wants to get a consultation and advisory on how to become more energy efficient, we can finance up to 80% of these advisory costs, up to 15,000 euros maximum. And that also includes a contracting check. So an energy consultant comes in, proposes potential measures, and also tells the municipality or the company, hey, you could also do this via energy performance contracting. This could be an interesting option for you. Then second, what we do step by step in our industrial support scheme, we already implemented this, that contractors, that ESCOs have equal access to funding just as building owners or homeowners themselves. What we also want to tackle, and this is quite a tough one, is we want to promote the improvement and harmonization of the legal environment in Germany, in the different states for EPC. I'll come to that in a second. And lastly, our project partner Dena is running a very successful, good project, Bund-Länder dialogue contracting, that actually aims at informing, networking, educating, and promoting of EPC. So what about the legal framework for EPC in Germany? As you know, Germany is a very federal state, and it's, in terms of the legal framework, it's very heterogeneous. So the range is from challenging. In some states, EPC is regarded as a credit-like legal contract, and therefore it's counted towards a municipality's credit limit. And each EPC needs to be approved on a case-by-case basis by the authorities. And a comprehensive comparison with the self-investment is required. So I won't name the states here. There's no naming and shaming here, but some states treat it like this, and then other states are much more supportive towards EPC. EPCs are not regarded a credit-like contract, not counted towards a municipality's credit limit. EPC is generally approved. You don't need to go to your municipality authority and ask for approval. And sorry, the last point is, I think I copied that, sorry. So you don't need to do that. You don't need to run a comprehensive comparison with the self-investment option. Finally, the Bund-Länder dialogue, as I pointed out, it's ongoing since 2005, and it's really a great platform. The Competence Center, here's the link if you have the presentation later on, provides model contracts, guides, Excel tools that are really, really excellent tools that also other European countries actually take as a role model. We're going to start from next year to implement flagship projects starting in 2019. And also we want to establish competence centers in the different states, in the Länder, dealing with contract. There's a mentoring program where Mr. Lohse, who spoke before, is mentoring less experienced states in Germany to implement competence center for contracting. There's workshops, networking events, and so on. So what's the outlook? Just quickly for my last 30 seconds. Why could EPC grow in the future from our view? Well, increased political pressure for energy investment, energy efficiency investment is likely. So municipalities will be, well, there will be more pressure. It's an interesting investment opportunity for banks in times of low interest rate environment that we still currently face. The predictions are that we will probably see a slowdown of the business cycle, and one of the problems these days is that the capacities of technicians, of engineers are really used up. They don't have really much time, but once we have a slowdown of the business cycle, they will have spare capacities. And finally, if fossil energy prices might increase in the future, this will also make EPC programs more profitable. So last slide, this is something to read and to smile. James Watt already came up with contracting 250 years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you. And very interesting to see that the idea to offer energy performance contracting services is really not new. It's really 250 years old. Quite a convincing business proposal here from James Watt. So let's hope that we can make sure that the share of the market is growing, but I think that's something we can discuss during the panel debate later. So thank you very much for this comprehensive overview about what's happening in Germany on energy performance contracting. We're now moving to France, and Françoise Réfabert will be our next speaker. Françoise is from Vesta Conseil and Finance, which is a small consulting firm which you created back in 2010. Please come up. And you're specializing in particularly consulting local communities, local governments, and so on, because this is where the investments really will have to take place. So, looking forward to your presentation. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need that? No? Okay.
Sur mes notes. Okay. So, good afternoon to everyone. The next slide, please. I will take. Ah, okay. Sorry. I see.
Right,
I see
yeah.
it. Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
Green.
The green. This one? No, this one.
No, the big one. The big green one.
Oh, this one. Okay, thanks.
That's it.
Yeah. And I will take the mic too. Okay. So, good afternoon. I'm going to talk about 5 points before going to some interesting examples regarding the refurbishment of private homes. And these examples are taken out from a European project funded under H2020. Which name is Innovate. And so this is really interesting because it helps us to challenge and mutualize examples across the EU. So the main point I want to go first is just to share some findings and things that really have to be deeply understood regarding the housing market, which is so different from what all we've been listening up to now, EPC and so on. We are in a non-professional market, and it changes everything. So for a long time now, we have regional councils, governments, and many people trying and understand how to make the market take off. And yes, there is a consensus on what should be done, but the question is still how do we achieve this? So yes, we have to give confidence to the consumers in a global offering of renovation. Yes, we have to induce prescribers such as banks and real estate professionals to play an active role in promoting this offering. And yes, we have to make these refurbishment works accessible to the lower and middle class, because when public efforts are made, it's on the vulnerable, which is of course normal, but financing a heavy refurbishment, which gives an outcome in terms of energy efficiency, it means that you have to spend or to invest, let's say 20,000 euros to 80 or 1,000 euros, and this is hardly accessible to the people when they access to normal banking loans, which are, generally speaking, consumer loans, which have to be repaid in 8 or 10 years. So, yes, the question is how do we do that and make it a sustainable business for the people who really want to make the refurbishment market move towards the recognition of energy efficiency. So, how to move the household project? Usually people, they want to have a refurbishment because they need to have a change in the house. But it's no use talking about energy efficiency because it's not what they are interested in. So the idea is that, the idea is that in addition to that, most people think that everything is already all right with what has been done, and they overestimate the level of energy efficiency of their homes. So it means that, yes, sometimes I hear about you should segment the market and focus on such and such kind of households or such and such kind of buildings, but the reality is that you have to seize every opportunities when people are ready to make a transformation in their home, because it never happens, it happens very seldom, maybe one or twice in a life. So you really have to be ready and seize this opportunity. And the best way to do that, I think there is also a consensus on that, is to facilitate this, because all the process is lengthy, troublesome, and complicated. So make it easy with a single point of contact. That's the recipe. But precisely this concept of single point of contact, one-stop shop, when it's applied to energy efficient renovations, we find out that it's ambiguous, because basically you have two ways of considering it, either like a public service, a service of general economic interest, or you consider it as a market-based service. And actually, it's really important that people step in the project with some initial thinking which is offered by the public service, because it offers them some neutral, free of charge, and kind of advice. And so when people don't really know what to do first and so on, it's really important. But what we see is that actually this is never enough, because afterwards people are often find it very difficult actually to discuss directly with the professionals they are facing. And so on the other side, we have some service providers who focus on the fact that they do offer this interface and provide selected professional lists. They can take charge of authorization, make everything for the people, but they are faced with a very low willingness to pay for this service, especially if you offer this before the project, and people don't really see the connection between the advice and the project which will have to be implemented. And so the two models, they should be interconnected, but that's not so easy to do than to say. And what we see is that it's really a local business to interface, and there is no general recipe that could work in any case. But since, of course, there has been a lot of efforts from local authorities to step in and to change the renovation market, what we see is that further to projects, to maybe subsidies and so on, there are a large halo of market players who are contributing to changing the market. So local authorities, they do step in because they are, in some countries, such as in France, are setting up operators. The finding is that the market is not moving by itself, and so they set up operators, and these operators are really dedicated to heavy energy refurbishments, considering that otherwise the market is just about refurbishment, not energy efficient refurbishment, and it's not going to change by itself, because the people do not have the capability to know what they should ask as a project, and on the other side the companies are SMEs, and they are not really ready to invest in energy efficiency mastership. because it's not profitable enough and it's not a quick return. What we see is that large players, such as the social housing players, do have an impact because on their side, they are working with the professionals so as to lower the refurbishment costs. And so what we see, for instance, you probably heard about a project which is also financed by the EC, which is Energiesprong, coming from the Netherlands. And so this is typical of attempts to step in the market with the power of social housing building owners to change the market. Sorry, I had more to say with this. We also see manufacturers and large specialized distribution that are slowly realizing that energy efficiency can be a marketing argument. We see that, for instance, they are ready to use their stores in order to organize events where they're both clients, I mean the professionals and the householders can meet. We see, of course, the online brokers who stepped in the market 10-15 years ago, starting to specialize in energy efficiency works, especially in countries like in France, where you have schemes such as the energy efficiency certificates, the white certificates. So they are incentivized on this segment thanks to this project, thanks to this scheme, sorry. I will give an example of SME and craftsmen cooperatives who are interesting players to follow. And just, I would like to focus a second on banks, because actually what is really important in order to overcome the fact that people are not really willing to pay for the advice is maybe to include this advisory piece of the project in the financing as well as the construction costs, so as to make this advice affordable. And so if you ask banks to finance this service upstream, well, it's complicated, because banks actually, they consider that the lending offer is as it is and is quite adapted, and they don't really see why they should make it different for energy efficient retrofits compared with any kind of housing loans or consumer loans. We will have an example from here in Germany with the KfW scheme, and unfortunately I don't see that it's open and so effective in other European countries. And another way to try and do this is being tested in France, and so it's what we call the third-party financing, where you have the possibility, as an exception to the banking monopoly, for local authorities to set up a specific public-private or fully public company, which will integrate the financing, and it will make it long, 25 years repayment, so that it's affordable to the people, even when they don't have a lot of revenues. Okay, and so I will not talk about Octave. It will be Eric who will be following. So this is an example in France, and taken out from the Innovate project, I would like to just to mention, and then if you're interested you can follow the links, examples which are part of the Innovate project. One is in London, and really what is interesting is the model about how it works. Actually, it's really a cooperative model where you put in vis-a-vis what they call the practitioners who are interested in the business of doing the works, and what they call the ambassadors, who are representing some potential customers. For instance, it can be social housing. For instance, it can be the local authorities themselves, but it also can be people who are, for instance, disabled, because it's, for instance, refurbishing a home for people who have difficulties who are in a wheeling chair, for instance. It must be very specific. And so it helps this to work quite smoothly, because they work as an interface, and they are able then to guide all the works and to implement quality checks, which are really serious ones. And we, in the Netherlands, we have the example of EeMAP, which is, they really try to take the market as it is, which is a B2C market, and implement it in a way where people are offered fixed price, guarantees, and they can buy a refurbishment as if it were on the shelf. And so really it's interesting to see how with small projects you can nevertheless tend to have an industrialized approach. And so that's my presentation, and the two examples I would recommend you to follow up as really inspiring. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Françoise, for introducing the concept and the idea of one-stop shops and the two examples you mentioned. I would have a few questions on those, but I'll park them for later for the discussion time. I would now like to invite Eric Gaspard from the French energy agency, ADEME, who will talk about the French version of the one-stop shops. I hope the microphone works for you. We can bring this up a little bit, but, well, should work. In any case, you will present the example of the Octave project and some other activities in France. So the green large button is the one to continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this invitation. So one example of a one-stop shop we have developed with the regional council in France. It's not on condominiums, it's not on professional buildings. This tool is addressed only to homeowners. Why? Because in 2008, with some other partners in this region, we have decided that we couldn't address with efficiency all the housing sector, all the building sector, and we had to be more specific. So the context is the Great East region. First of all, this project was on the Alsace region, which is on the east part of the map here. It has been supported by EU, MLEI PDA, which is H 2020 now. We have now 31 local authorities which have been developed a platform of renovation. And the target is 1,500 renovation per year to be reached. We can compare it to 38,000 housing to be renovated. As a global renovation, if we want to counteract the climate change impact. So what I will present to you, it's an industrial prototype. It's an experimentation. We are at the beginning of the adventure. So this adventure is already 488 householders which have been assisted in their renovation project. And from now, we have 56 global renovation which has been achieved already. We have 60 of them which are in our pipeline, in portfolio, and 160 two-step renovation. Because in first place, we went for global renovation or nothing, but the market is too small, so we go to one-step renovation. We still have in mind we have to achieve by 2050, as the national plan say that we want global, all the housing must be renovated by the standards of global renovation. So already this project has generated 10 million euro investment and some avoided tons of CO2, 350, and 1,800 megawatt hour energy saving. And one brand has been created with a website and with some videos with a humoristic point of view to be able to sound less institutional to homeowners who want to go for deep renovation. These figures that you can see, these results, they are already there before the tool was created. The tool is an ESCO, a semi-public company which has been created in June of 2018, this year. But already the service has been designed by us, region and French agency, and local authorities together. So we have designed the service and we have proposed already to homeowners. 56 of them has gone for our assistance. With this experience, with these results, we were able to create a company not from nothing, but with some experience and with a portfolio, with some methods, and with some tools as well. So maybe an indication, when we say global renovation, it costs the mean value of the energy saving works is 80k euros per house, and for the two-step renovation is 50k euros per house renovated. This is what we have observed. So after we have been designed the service, we have created this tool after 2 years of studies. So it's a semi-public company which have 3 million equity capital, 4 employees from now, and the shareholders, or the stakeholders, sorry, are the regional council, which is the majority, 51%, one commercial bank, one national or federal bank, and ProCivis, which is an actor quite specific in each region in France. The assistance is paid by the homeowners who want to go for renovation. They are paying the service to this ESCO. What we could say about third-party financing, because it is one of the big issue of this conference and this day. The first in the project, we wanted to go for direct third financing service. As Françoise Réfabert said just before me, we wanted to go to a small bank who would have been created, more or less, and to grant some loans directly to house owners. Finally, we went for indirect third financing. It means that we have partnership, or the ESCO has partnership with some banks to propose to customers some loans which has supplementary to go to fulfill the financing. It means when you have to finance 80k euros of works, of renovation work, maybe the loan that your bank will be able to grant for you is not sufficient, is not enough. You need supplementary loan. So the bank who are stakeholders of the ESCO would be able to propose you anyway one supplementary loan. And then you will be able to finance the global costs of your renovation. What has been done so far is that we would have been able to grant some loan to 12 persons among the 57 that I've mentioned, and 378k euro has been granted so far as a supplementary loan. On other cases, people had enough money or were okay with their own bank to go for the financing the project. Our vision with the regional council was to say that okay, we have some subsidies to use to achieve our goal, which are the climate change issue and energy efficiency issue, and maybe we can use grant to finance directly renovation costs. That was not our choice. Our choice was to put this money on the assistance and put this money on creation of an ESCO. It means that we have a better leverage factor on these public subsidies between the money we put onto the table and what will be generated at last, but not on the 2 first years. This is a long-term investment for these public money. It will last, we wish, for maybe 20 years after the beginning of this ESCO on June this year. And when we go for that, we don't have the prices of the renovation work which are increasing with the subsidies, because we are observing all the time when you put a subsidy directly on the renovation costs, you always have the prices which are increasing, unfortunately. And we have observed it as the tax rebate has been stopped on the retrofitting of windows this year for France, and the cost of the retrofitting windows has increased by 30%, which was more or less the tax rebate which was on the retrofit of windows previously. Some key points with this project, because if you want details, you have this document which you can take at your left when you go out of this room, and it's free of charge. One point for us, it was the good coordination between the regional level and the local level. It means that some issues are more efficient at regional level, which are negotiating the white certificates or the energy saving certificates, or maybe to go for partnerships with banks. You won't be able to do it with efficiency if you go for only one bank in your town. And at the local level, on green on your slide, we go for the platform at the local contact point. Go for stimulate all the professional, the craftsmen, yes, but as well as the bank, the solicitors, the local authorities, and the real estate agencies. So we are working with them at the local level. One very important issue for us is companies labeling. How to go for good quality and energy efficiency, which will be really observed after refurbishment. We had proposed one training program which was on site, on the workplace with the craftsmen, and we have created 35 groups in 2 years with 235 craftsmen which have been trained and 20 architects as well. So it is really important for us to be sure that, for example, people who will implement and do the renovation works will go for good quality, for example, in airtightness. We are maximum of 3 volume of the house per hour of leakages in the airtightness performance. So we will go for referencing of these people, of these craftsmen, and propose them directly to the people. So as a conclusion, some key success factor to say again what is important is in this project: building company skills with the labeling and referencing of them. It's a real need from the homeowners. They are not professional. They don't know how to choose between this plumbers or this roofer or this carpenter. They don't know how to choose the good insulation material, what is the thickness of this, etc., etc. So building company skills and labeling, very important for us. The complementary articulation, coordination between local and regional levels. The cash advance on public subsidies. So we are talking about some supplementary or complementary loans, but we also propose with the ESCO some cash advance on subsidies, because people are eligible, they can go for some subsidies, but they will have the money maybe 1 year, 6 months after the end of the works. So sometimes they can't afford to pay it maybe 6 months before the beginning of the works. And never forget, as Françoise said, but we agree with that people, they don't go for energy efficiency work, they are going for work or renovation. Most of the time, they have very accurate needs and very accurate needs on their kitchen, on their bathroom, but not on their heating system and insulation. So we need to sell some efficiency energy service, but not only that. We need to sell as well comfort and value for patrimoine. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you also for mentioning that there are many other drivers than just a pure energy saving, which are the main motivator for people. Peter Sweetman hinted at this fact already this morning when he talked about the data on multiple benefits in the deep energy, in the deep database. The deep database is one of the outcomes, one of the products of the EFIC initiative of the European Commission, and our next speaker, Bettina Dorendorf, was instrumental in setting up the first phase of EFIC. Back then you were working as a seconded national expert at the European Commission. Now you're back to KfW, your original employer, and you will talk to us about the long-standing financial support scheme which the KfW is running in Germany to finance energy efficiency investments, but also renewable energy investments in the German building stock. So Bettina, looking very much forward to your presentation. Okay. The big green button is the one to continue.
Okay, and
thank you.
The microphone. So, good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon and give you a very short overview on KfW's promotional activities and offer for energy efficiency in the building sector. Given the short time frame available, I will focus on the product offer for energy efficient renovation. I don't think I will have to introduce KfW as an institution, but just in a nutshell, KfW just had its 70th birthday, and as an institution, this is quite a long-term experience we can offer as a promotional bank. So let me go on. KfW is active domestically, but as well as internationally. We are offering promotional products for a broad range of customer groups, for private clients, SMEs, municipalities, in the framework of the domestic promotion, for expert and project finance, as well as for developing and emerging economies. Two-thirds of our domestic promotional activities are processed through the so-called on-lending model. Important to know, KfW does not have its own branch offices, therefore we work with a very broad network of financial partners, being banks, savings banks, but also some insurance companies. Why this? This is a way to preserve subsidiarity and ensure competition neutrality, which is something we are expected to do under the KfW law. With this on-lending model, what we do is we provide cheap refinancing to our financial partners and ask them to on-lend these funds to their private clients under our promotional conditions. Just to give you some numbers, the promotional new commitment volume in 2017 was 76.5 billion euros, so our promotional volume ranges between 70 and 80 billion euros per year. Two-thirds of which is provided to the domestic promotional activities. And one of our core activities and targets is energy efficiency and as SME promotion. KfW is offering a very broad spectrum of products covering loans via the on-lending model, investment grants, direct loans as well, equity contribution and risk sharing. To give you some numbers as well in terms of lending volume, we provide around 200 million euros of lending per day. And in addition to that, we also provide grants. This results in around 500,000 individual loan agreements per year. What do I want to say? We have quite a routine in providing promotional loans and grants. Let me now focus on our promotion offer for the building sector, which is quite a success story. We have promotional programs covering residential buildings, commercial buildings, as well as public buildings. And the structure of these promotional activities is quite similar. And this is the picture we will be looking at for the next couple of minutes, and I will guide you through the graph. What you see here is the setup of our promotional offer for energy efficient refurbishment. We have in total 6 different promotional levels. What does that mean? It shows the energy efficiency house 115, 185, 70 and 55. So these numbers, what are they telling you? The promotional scheme is based on the current legal framework, which is the Energy Savings Ordinance. And by creating the so-called KfW efficiency house, what we do is we reduce the complex legal requirements to basically 2 main variables: the primary energy demand and the transmission heat loss. So to simplify a little bit, a KfW efficiency house 55 tells you that this building or this housing unit consumes only 55% of the primary energy demand, which would be legally required in a new building. I simplify a little bit because the requirements are a little bit less, a little bit loose, more loose in comparison with requirements for new buildings. So by providing different levels of promotion, what we grant is a high degree of flexibility for our clients. So a KfW house 55, backwards, sorry. For a KfW house 55, what we, in terms of promotion, we offer a very low interest rate, which is 0.75% effective interest rate for 10 years. And it's important to note that for all these different levels of promotion, we have one single interest rate. The promotional, the distinctive moment for all those promotional levels is the partial debt relief, which is associated to the different efficiency house levels or promotional levels. For the most ambitious efficiency house level 55, we provide a partial debt relief of 27.5%. That means that from 100 euro loan amount, you only have to redeem like 73.5 euros at the end of the day. So the partial debt relief is the distinctive element of our different promotional levels. What you see is that we also provide promotion for single measures, because preparing a comprehensive renovation package to achieve a KfW efficiency house level is quite costly and takes quite a lot of time. Therefore, we also provide a promotion for single measures. In addition to that, we also have an offer for monument buildings. It has been mentioned a couple of times today that it's difficult for private households to get to access loans, in particular when people are perhaps a little bit more aged, or for whatever circumstances they can't or they do not want to take out a loan. And in order to address this, what we offer is an alternative, which is just a grant scheme. So customers have the choice between loans and grants. So perhaps if someone wants to exchange the windows or the heating system, there is the possibility to take out a loan up to 50,000 euros and get 7.5% partial debt relief. And as an alternative, the same single measure can be financed by applying for a grant. I will go on because time is running quickly. So the key principles of our promotion offer are the following. It's based on the German Energy Savings Ordinance. We have a holistic approach because we do not only finance energy efficiency but allow for integration of renewable energy measures. And by this we have actually created quite a well-known brand in Germany. 12 years of experience. I will skip this because I will get to the results later on. So quite some time to improve and refine our promotional scheme. And now I would like to mention a very important point. Digitalization plays a major role in our economy and has led to changes in customer expectations regarding the offer of financial products. So Google, Amazon and Facebook have changed our expectations regarding the way how products are presented and how products can be exited. And KfW has been working on this by making sure we offer or we provide access to the promotional products via platforms. We have created a platform for grants so that customers do not have to do any paperwork at all. We have created a non-lending mechanism to provide web-based application and approval for our promotional loans. So we think it's very important to focus on the customer expectations going along with digitalization and make sure our product offer is visible and accessible wherever the customer seeks for information regarding home renovation. Let me now mention another very important part of or element of our promotional offer, which is the mandatory involvement of an energy expert. So we can only process our promotional offer and products with the support of public funds. And in order to make sure these funds are well spent, we have established a sophisticated mechanism of quality control. And one focal element of this mechanism is the involvement of an energy expert. So every customer applying for a loan or grant for energy efficiency investments has to involve an energy expert who is listed in a dedicated pool, the energy efficiency expert list, and the expert have to prove their professional standards and relist every 3 years in order to make sure they are up to date with regard to legal and technical requirements and can provide professional advice. In order to cover the cost for the involvement of these experts, KfW offers a grant which covers 50% of the costs, maximum 4,000 euros, and the remaining costs can be covered by the loan or grant taken out for the energy efficiency investment measure. So I think this also is part of the solution for the challenge which has been mentioned again and again, that customers have to be taken by the hand and led through the investment process. So what the energy expert is doing here is helping the client to plan the investment measures, sign up at the moment of loan or grant approval, confirming with a signature that the investment measures planned are in line with the promotional conditions. And after the investment measures have been implemented, the expert signs once again to confirm that the implementation is also in line with the investment measures. 5 seconds to go. Okay. Another important element of our scheme is the yearly evaluation of the promotional results to prove the promotional effectiveness of our activities. So just to give you an example, in 2007, with the program Energy Efficient Refurbishment, we could prove that this leads to 480,000 tons of CO2 equivalent reduction per year, job effects. The program had job effects of 180,000 man years. So it's really a local stimulator of local economy, which we can prove with the annual evaluation. In addition to that, it has positive budgetary effects in terms of social contribution and reduction of unemployment rate. So all in all, we have supported more than 5 million housing units since the introduction of the scheme, Energy Efficient Construction and Refurbishment, which is actually our flagship program. So what are the main lessons learned? I have to stop now. The more transparent and simple the promotional scheme, the better it is to understand and the easier it is to distribute. Let me once again point out that how important it is to make the scheme available via digital channels and make sure the access is everywhere where the customer seeks for information. The mandatory involvement of an energy expert is very important to provide help and advice, and it assures a high degree of quality and reliability, and it also ensures the target-oriented use of public funds. We could not offer this program without around 2 billion euros of funds provided to us by the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy. So last but not least, the monitoring of the promotional effects is important to show the economic and climate impacts. Many more information will be available in an extensive presentation I will provide to you, Oliver. Thank you very much.
Bettina, thank you very much for, do you have the answers I need? Thank you. Bettina, thank you very much for the comprehensive overview of the promotional scheme for building renovation managed by KfW. After this session, we will have a good 20 minutes for interaction with you, the audience, so please prepare any questions you may have. The final presentation for today will come from Andrea Bedin, who is working here at the Goethe University in Frankfurt, in this very town, in 2 projects, the EeMAP and the EDAP, and you will explain to us what these acronyms actually mean and how these 2 projects are really developing new solutions to finance energy efficiency investments in the building sector. Andrea.
So, thank you for the presentation. I'm a researcher at the research center SAFE, which is located inside the Goethe University. And together with Ca' Foscari University of Venice, we are carrying out the statistical analysis for 2 European Horizon 2020 funded projects, which are the Energy Efficient Mortgage Action Plan and the Energy Efficiency Data Protocol and Portal. So why do we need an energy efficiency mortgage initiative? Our building stock is the largest single energy consumer in the European Union. In fact, 40% of the energy consumption and 36% of the CO2 emission are due to our current building stock. And our building stock is actually old. And it's predicted that the 75% and up to 90% will remain standing in 2050. So, as we said this morning, we set some targets for 2020, 2030, and 2050. The potential is that by improving the energy efficiency of buildings, the European Union total consumption could be reduced up to 5 or 6% of CO2 emissions. But the current state is that only a fraction of bank lending is explicitly classified as green. So the challenge that we are facing in those projects are the lack of standardization in terms of reporting, definition, and dynamic data sets. And there is also a hindered transparency, and we are facing some problems also in the risk assessment. So this initiative could have a huge potential to bring financial innovation and in the mortgage market. So the goal of the EeMAP, the first project, is to deliver a standardized framework to stimulate energy efficiency investment by household through bank financing, a framework for creating an energy passport for building that recovers all the information of the energy efficiency of the building, a framework that can integrate the green value of the properties, and a framework for creating a new energy efficiency mortgage product that could be also a green covered bond. So just to give you an overview of what could be the steps that an applicant should follow in order to have an energy efficiency mortgage, we made this slide. First, we have a mortgage applicant who wants to buy an energy efficiency house or wants to renovate his house. So the banks carries out the first valuation of the property and selects an energy efficiency advisor that complements the valuation with energy efficiency information. Then a qualified SME is selected to carry out the renovation, and the bank could grant the mortgage and provide a top-up level in the energy efficiency level directly from the SME. After the renovation and that the SME carries out the renovation, the energy efficiency advisor, that should be an expert, carries out the performance analysis and give the new energy label to the building. And after this, a preferred interest rate could be granted from the bank to the applicant. And of course, after this, there will be another valuation of the property. So we can see that the renovation impacts positively on property value, ensuring a wealth conservation and a loss mitigation by preventing the brown discount. And the energy efficiency could lead to a reduction in the impact of the energy cost to income and reducing the borrower probability of default. What we are trying to understand in our research at the Goethe University is to which extent energy efficiency impacts the borrower probability of default and the loan to value of the loan. So the ultimate objective of the project is a private bank financing mechanism based on a standardized approach that encourages household investment to a preferred interest rate. And our underlying business case is that an increased loss mitigation capacity through an energy efficiency loan and an enhanced loan to value via green loan and a lower probability of default could be important for the bank because they could reduce their capital charge. So this is what we want to prove, that there is an enhanced loan to value and a lower probability of default for energy efficiency loan. So to give you an overview of the current market situation, we underlined in the left side of the slide the current market situation for loans. In many cases, the interest given by the bank depends only from the borrower's information and for performance information, and does not depend on the energy efficiency of the building. So what we want to achieve is a market and a bank market where we have an interest spread that is higher for energy efficiency buildings. So the higher the energy efficiency of the house will be, the lower will be the interest rate, because we have a higher discount of the interest rate. But to do this and to prove this relation, we need the data. We told earlier this morning that we are facing some issues of having data, and in particular of having energy efficiency information with loan characteristic and performance information. So the second project, the Energy Efficient Data Protocol and Portal, will tackle this issue. In fact, this project intends to deliver a technical and financial database related to energy efficiency mortgage with a standardized data protocol and an access to a common centralized portal. The key outputs of this project will be the definition of a specific reporting criteria that match energy efficiency information and performance information, and the design of a standardized protocol and processing for disclosing the data. So every banks, every researcher, and every institution could have access at this centralized portal. Banks could upload their information, and they will be validated from the EeDAP partners. And of course, a design of a centralized portal where to access those data. So what we are doing as a researcher is analyzing the correlation between buildings' energy efficiency and borrowers' probability of default. So as you may know, this is something that is very difficult to do. There are only a few scientific works on this relation, and they are mostly carried out in the US market. There are some scientific papers that prove the relation between energy efficiency and home valuation. But for the Europe market, the relation between probability of default and energy efficiency is difficult to prove, because we have the challenge of the data availability that is not in a way consistent. We have not all the information from one specific data set to carry out this analysis. There is an inconsistent definition of energy efficiency across all the European Union countries, and there is not a standardized framework. We are currently accessing to some available dataset from UK, from the English Housing Survey, and from Belgium, with green mortgage originated between 2009 and 2011, where there was a specific discount for green mortgage. But for those data, we have a short sample history. And we are currently working on that to improve our results. So what I want to show you today is our promising result for the Netherlands and for the Dutch market. So what we did is use the European Data Warehouse loan level data to access the information about borrower and performance information. But this data set that comes from RMBS, Residential Mortgage-Backed Asset Securities, does not contain any energy efficiency information. So what we did is use an energy efficiency proxy. So the table that you see in the upper side of the slide is provided by the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, RVO, which for every building type and every construction year give a provisional label. So we have up to 60 reference for building types and construction year, with also insulation or characteristic of the roof. And for every of these parameters, the RVO gives a label that could be improved directly by the household, giving the information, the additional information of what he did of the renovation works. So we merge the European data warehouse dataset with this table, and we created the table that you see in the lower part of the slide. So we could match 3 types of buildings and many construction year. And now, as you will see, if the building is constructed after 2006, it could have an A label rating. So, sorry. You could see that if those are some statistics of our dataset, and you can see that if the rating category is higher, so there is an A labeled building, the percentage of defaulted loans is lower, much lower of the G labeled buildings, and this is an increasing path. With the exception of E-label rating that accounts only for 4% of our dataset. So what we did, he performed some statistical analysis to prove the correlation. And first of all, we highlight the survival analysis that is a statistical analysis often used in the medics to separate 2 different samples that has one unique characteristics in different. So we separated the energy efficiency buildings with the non-energy efficiency building, and we see that the upper curve represents the energy efficiency building and has a survival path that is longer than the non-energy efficiency building. So it seems from our analysis that the energy efficiency house survive, and the loans survive for more period of time in respect with non-energy efficiency. So we perform the logistic regression to better understand the relationship between probability of default and energy efficiency of the mortgage. The logistic regression is a statistical analysis that is useful to model binary response variable, which is the default of the borrower, that could be 1 if the borrower is in default, or 0 if it's not in default. And the most important thing to underline is that if the energy efficiency variable is below 1, we have a negative relation between energy efficiency and probability of default. So the more energy efficiency the building is, and in this case we underline the A or B rating buildings as energy efficiency, the lower the probability of default will be. So we show this for 4 different models when we take into account different model specification and different controls variables. And even though we include all the different control variables, the energy efficiency relation is still negative and still significant because we have the stars. So this is our analysis, and I finished my time, so I want just to thank you and to show you our partners in this project. Thank you.
Okay, I would now like to invite all the speakers to come up and join me on stage. Please take a seat here where your nameplate is, because that will allow us to have a short, maybe around 20 minutes of discussion with you, the audience. You may have one or the other question, which we will be happy to take. This also gives us an opportunity to have some water if you feel like it, so please feel free to do that. So, well, first of all, thank you again to all of you for the comprehensive overview of solutions, as I said in my introduction, because I think we don't want to focus so much on the barriers, but we really want to focus on the solutions. I would have many questions, but I would like to give the opportunity to you in the audience to ask questions. Yes, so we have a roaming microphone. Please also introduce yourself briefly and let us know to whom you address the question, unless it goes to the panel as such. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Svenja Hector from ADELPhi in Berlin. We are a consulting company on energy efficiency, including finance. I have a question to everyone. We heard some very interesting projects on energy efficiency in residential building, and we heard from BMWi on energy performance contracting. I'm interested in the overlap. So what do you three see as the potential for energy performance contracting in the residential building sector, potentially including utilities and going beyond energy delivery, looking at deep energy efficiency renovation?
Would you like to?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. On one of the slides I had one of the rules of thumb. So energy performance contracting is usually worthwhile starting from 100,000 euros per year on energy cost. So that's typically not something that a private household would have. So then the key here would be pooling. So, you know, pool several buildings, projects together. And that's the next step that we have to do. But still, now we're focusing on bigger projects, because still, you know, with municipality buildings or company buildings, there is still a lot of potential that has not been reaped in terms of energy performance contracting. But I agree, if we find a good solution, maybe with the tools that came up from Mr. Lohse and other tools to kind of aggregate, standardize a lot of smaller projects into one bigger chunk, then that would be ideal also for EPC. But maybe other people have more thoughts on that.
There is a microphone.
Should be on, okay. I raised my hand because I wanted to underline that, as Daniel Wissmann mentioned, KfW promotional programs for energy efficiency are open to all customer groups, including contractors. And let me just underline this, because in fact the potential is not explored. And may I add a question to Daniel Wissmann? So I would like to know from your point of view what the main what has to happen to make the legal framework harmonized in Germany, and what is necessary to create scale in the EPC market in Germany? I don't want to open a debate, but just from your point of view, the main points.
Yes. So there are economic things that currently work against contracting. Low energy prices, low interest rates. That's not the best environment for contracting. Second, we're still facing a lot of cultural barriers. People are not aware or are skeptical. It sounds like a PPP to many mayors or politicians, and many just plainly don't know what contracting is. We still have to start from zero. And then in terms of the legal framework, that's also not in many states not the most supporting framework that we have. But we have some states that actually have a very supportive framework, as I pointed out. But as you know, it's in Germany, it's very tedious to bring together all states and to convince them to harmonize, to make their legal framework more supportive for EPC. So that's why we think through this DENA project, Bund-Länder-Dialog contracting, that we need to increase the knowledge, we need to increase the networking between the stakeholders. And what we're also going to tackle next year, we need to really have lighthouse projects in a state, including the local state ministries, authorities, and take them by the hand and show them with a specific lighthouse project in their state how EPC works, what challenges are, and maybe some of the concerns they have that they don't exist. That's what we're going to do.
Could it be that France is ahead of the game here in compared to Germany? Because of what I understood from Eric's presentation, you have created an ESCO, an energy service company for residential buildings, for small houses. Okay, you said you're at the beginning of your adventure, but there seems to be some more progress than in Germany. Is that fair to say, Eric and Françoise?
Happy to learn.
Well, we're here to do exactly that, to exchange, yes.
I don't have all the figures to compare the two nations or the two members of Europe, but as far as I know, maybe we experience more in France, maybe, yes, for the one-stop shop, not for EPC. And to answer your question, we have in the greatest region one small initiative who tried to go for EPC for individual, for homeowners. And the costs of studies was between 4, 5, 6,000 euro per houses, which was too much to go for and was not be able to be sold. Okay, so I have in mind another example for a condominium, and some architects and project manager went for a kind of light EPC and with limited guarantees. So he was not engaged for a certain amount of euro in case of increases of the consumption. And it was for me kind of quality control process applied to building. And only 3 years after the end of the works, it was a deep renovation. It was meaning 75% reduction in the energy consumption. So maybe we have to go for explore some EPC which could be adapted to what could be housing, because people behavior, it's really difficult to plan it and to anticipate it, and you have always the human factor, so it's very difficult to put this human factor in contract. Even if you have sensors and even if you can sign some documents, you will still have the habit to go for your 22 degrees Celsius in your kitchen or anyway. That's
Thank you. Françoise, you wanted to comment as well?
Yes, well, I fully agree with Eric. What I would say is that in EPC market, you also have different clients, of course. And regarding EPCs applied to public buildings, what I see is that it's indeed difficult to apply it to small buildings, or and what is the most successful is integrated contracts where you have the study, the completion of works, the management afterwards, but you take out the financing, because it makes the contract much more easier, and it allows it to be shorter as the time of the contract. And so the municipalities feel they are not tight, and they have the possibility to make alterations to the building and so on after a few years, because it's real life. So otherwise, if the EPC contract is too long, then you have the issue of having to alter it during the contract, and it's complicated. And so regarding the housing sector, yes, you have some EPC contracts, but only for condominiums and large ones with collective heating. And what I see is that, generally speaking, it's really heavily subsidized. Otherwise, it's difficult to have condominiums agree to be locked in a contract that they take even before they agree on the. They want to be consulted when it comes to the works itself. So it's a little contradictory with the very idea of the EPC contract.
Okay. Daniel, you said in the beginning of your presentation that, or you hinted at, the fact that you see a big opportunity to grow the EPC market. Now, if you were king of Germany for one day, what would it be you would decide and implement to really boost the growth of that EPC market?
That's a great question. Well, I think there's not just one measure, but just educating people and telling them the potential could do a big job. Then along the lines of the ACE project, standardizing and pooling investment projects could be a huge thing. And then I'm not sure. Well, I should say that with a sticker. That's my personal opinion. If we had higher fossil prices, then of course the business case, the economic logic for performance contracting would also be much more favorable.
So an enabling framework, well, we are at the moment, or the world, the climate change community is meeting at the moment in Katowice in Poland, and maybe that will bring some of these fossil fuel price increases with them once the rules are agreed. Anyway, I want to see whether there are any other questions. Yes, please.
Hello, Cormac Ryan from Copilot Building Commissioning. We certify buildings from design to operation. My question is, the presentations generally looked at residential and then EPC obviously more for commercial. But are there things, for example, the KfW type of mechanism for residential for commercial? So non-EPC structured solutions for commercial buildings.
Yes, actually there is a promotion offer for non-residential buildings, which follows the same logic as the offer for residential buildings. So I didn't really go into deep detail due to the lack of time, but we do offer a very comprehensive product spectrum for all building sectors, and the structure is the same. There are different promotional levels. The distinguishing element of promotion is the partial debt relief, and so basically it's transparent and easy to understand. I will provide the details in the presentation.
Okay, just wanted to say that, of course, all the presentations will be made available on the Commission's website, so you can download them. I'm sure that there will be an email follow-up to after that conference, so you will have access to all the presentations. Yes, Eric, of course.
Most of the time, what we can observe that when you have any company, commercial or not commercial, they want a payback time maximum of 2-3 years. And when you go for renovation insulation, heating system could be about these 3 years, but it's still very rare. You never have this payback time. So very simply, the directors and CEO of these companies decide not to go further, so because they think it's not relevant for them.
Oliver. So just one little remark regarding payback time. For our private customers, what we offer is a tool which they can use to check the payback time of their investment and compare the promotional financing offer with a conventional offer. So to make to help them take a well-informed decision on whether to take out a loan for a comprehensive refurbishment package or not.
Now, the point with the payback time is, of course, a tricky one. If we look only at the energy cost savings, yeah. But I remember, Eric, you also mentioned in your presentation that comfort, for example, is often one of the drivers. So, to what degree is that really expressed in people's decision making in your experience, in the cases you have? And maybe, Andrea, a related question to you. Is that something you're factoring in your analysis? But let's ask Eric first, how that is really expressed in the decision making by individual people so far. Yes, well, the other drivers, the comfort. Mm. Yeah, how do people make a statement that they're willing to pay X amount of euros for that additional comfort gain? Is that somehow expressed?
It's quite a difficult point because they are not expressing it at all. Their project is, I am retiring and I need to change the spaces that I was used to give to my children, and they have gone now, and I want to make some changes in my home. Or most of the time we have a young couple, and they are beginning their lives, and they are just about their home, and they just want to have any budget to make the house like they would like. But comfort it's a detail in that. So our work is to make it observable and to put him as an argument, and to make them express it really.
Okay. Andrea, you mentioned the two different efficiency levels, the EE0 and the EE1. And do you take these aspects into account when defining them and differentiating between the two of them?
Well, it's we are working on defining better the energy efficiency of the building. One partner, E.ON, for the Italian market shows that people, at least for the Italian market, are more willing to improve their renovation for the building. But the most difficult thing to do for us is having a complete data set where we could have all the data and all the information of borrower, and also all the energy performance certificates of the building. So we are currently working on this, but it's not so easy for us to do it.
Okay. Bettina, data is a challenge, but KfW has been running this program since many years, with hundreds of thousands of projects in the end. And because you do the very close monitoring, because you need the expert advice to allocate the funding, you must have a treasure trove of data. No? Is that somehow publicly available? Can that be used to inform policy making, or is that somehow confidential KfW owned property?
So, just to prevent misunderstandings or wrong expectations, of course we have processed many loan and grant applications for energy efficiency investments. What we do not collect are energy efficiency performance data. So our customers are not obliged to provide the actual energy savings data once they are obtained a promotional loan or grant. My personal opinion, it's a pity. However, it's not difficult. It's a complex discussion. It's actually a complex discussion. It would be great if customers would be voluntarily willing to share their performance data and track them for a couple of years and put them into a deep database, but this is not the reality. So this is not how our promotional scheme works. If it might change in the future, we don't know, but currently we do not track the performance data. Oliver, may I ask one question to...
You may, yes, this is a panel discussion also for the panelists, of course.
I wanted to ask for permission of our...
Absolutely.
The energy efficiency mortgage initiative is a very interesting, a very interesting approach. You mentioned an energy efficiency advisor who is granted an important role in the process. I would like to know who is supposed to cover this role, and how does your approach make sure that the professional level is in line, is high enough and reliable enough to fulfill the expectations associated with this role? Second question, who is actually undertaking the valuation of the mortgage, which is also a step in your process? And last point, I understand that your working thesis is that energy efficiency goes along with lower default rate and better, lower LTV and better valuation results. So how large will have the statistical sample to be in order to draw really healthy conclusions?
Thank you for the question. Well, regarding the slide of the steps that the applicant should follow, I have to underline that those are draft steps that he should follow. You mentioned in your presentation that the expert that carries out the evaluation is a certified expert, and this is what we want to achieve. Not, of course, to have a certified expert. And regarding the evaluation, of course, it will be a bank valuation carried out from an expert point of view. Those are a draft steps. I have to remark this, because the EeMAP project is currently is not finished. We are working on it, and we are asking the support of 41 pilot scheme banks that they are suggesting us how to do things in order to have better market results. So regarding the third question, our statistical sample was of 100 to 27,000 loans. So it's not so high, but we have the problem that the data set, even though it will be like millions of loans, for some of them there is the problem that not all the variables are collected. So this is the main problem. And what I'm thinking about of a complete data set, I've seen scientific works that analyzes 42 million of loans to provide an example of some statistical analysis. We don't want to have such huge data set, but it should be in order of million. So I agree if someone said that this is not a huge data set, but the difficulties we remarked all along the days, but is to have the complete data set.
Thank you very much. Well, we're officially out of time, but because we have started a little bit later, we can just allow one more question before we just do a quick final round. Is there any final question from the audience? Please.
Thank you, Oliver. I will try to be quick. Petr Holub, coming from the Czech Republic, and we are currently working on a design of communication campaign for energy efficiency mainly in buildings. You have two good examples in your countries, Germany and France. In Germany it's Deutschland macht Effizienz, and in France it should be fair, if I pronounce it probably wrongly, but whatever, you all hopefully understand me. So what's your view on that campaign? How do you see it? And do you already have do you see effects of these campaigns in your programs? Does it bring already effects, or will it bring effects in 2 or 3 years? How do you see these campaigns? Thank you.
Okay, and while you answer the question, let's have a quick final round. What is your perspective on really engaging the public, the decision makers, either from the EeMAP perspective or from the perspective of research on the one-stop shop concept? If we could close with an answer to that question, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Eric, do you want to start?
Thank you. So your question was, this campaign fair, the one launched this year? Yeah. Okay. It's quite a bit earlier to have some conclusion, because this campaign will last for 3 years. But what we have observed right now is that people, it was a success on the website and with the digitalization. So that was a success in this area. But for the rest, compared to some other campaigns which has been launched previously, for the moment we have less effects on the number of informations that we have asked, because we have some energy advisors who are 400 on the national in France, and they are giving some free advices on energy efficiency, and they can observe more or less contacts or information, but connection on websites are more than former and previous campaigns for the moment. And for your question, perspective regarding one-stop shop, was it? Okay. I think one main point is to go for coordination and build a network of all the one-stop shop was already existing in France and maybe in Europe. 5 of them in France, including Octave, and they have some work to do together to maybe go for to lower some costs if they are designing some tools together, for example.
Okay, thank you, Françoise. Can you add to that? As you have a lot of experience in researching the other one-stop shops around Europe.
Yes, okay, so I again agree with Eric. A network effect would be welcome. Actually, I can see that these connections are being made, and mostly thanks to the European Commission projects, programs, so that's well. Regarding the provision of data, it's a small contribution, but it is starting and it is being financed by ADEME. The most advanced third-party financing projects are gathering and building a common database so as to collect this data. And since the third-party financing are connected to their clients for a long-term period, and since the contract is also that they should look after the real effect of the project, we think that we will be able to make this correlation between the default rate and the actual performance. Not for all of them, but for at least a significant part of it. We will not reach millions, I'm afraid, but some thousands, yes. And the next step will be to, sometime in 2019, to provide this data, namely to deep database. Mm-hmm. And I wish to make, well, I think it's important comment, but you will see. It's about the argument regarding the oil price, because I heard many, well, at least 2 or 3 times during the day that it was a problem that the oil price was too low at the moment. Well, in fact, I really think that first, the best way to keep this price low, because having a low price of oil is beneficial to the economy, is indeed to have better energy efficiency, because up to my knowledge, the best way to have a real impact on the market, I mean a long-term and long-standing impact, is to lower the demand first. So it means what? It means that we need to not connect the energy efficiency to the price of oil and energy. And it's really important, this, and I would like to stress that regarding the branding, the marketing, and so on, you really have to think about what is the real impact of the so-called energy efficiency renovation, which is not only energy efficiency, and to make, well, maybe build messages which are really to make people think about the impact of the refurbishment they are doing on the overall environment, and not making them think that it's only, if I may say, quote, only, an investment-wise or investment-like decision. When you refurbish your house, it's much more than that.
Okay, thank you very much. So a clear call to take all the other non-directly energy-related benefits into account when making these investment decisions. Before we come to you, I wanted to come to Andrea on this side. And Andrea, the communication aspect is still the question. You mentioned at the beginning of your presentation the building energy passport as a tool which supports your project. Is that, I mean, that's a communication tool. Is that a nice to have tool or an essential tool, a must-have tool for the success of your project you're undertaking?
I tend to think that the energy efficiency passport of the building is a key point for our research. We want to achieve a market where every building has his own key identifier. So we can merge all the information of the buildings with all the information of the household. So having this link, we could lead to an improved market in terms of energy efficiency. We should highlight that policy is not should be not alone in creating a more energy efficiency market, but every improvement in this side should be driven by household initiatives. So if we are what we are trying to understand is that if there is this relation, and this relation is a key point, because if we are trying to prove that energy efficiency is related negatively with the default probability, then even banks could have a risk measure and risk management tool to show that they could have a lower charge. So they could grant a loan to a preferred interest rate, and this is a positive market chain, I guess. So yeah, the passport, I think, is a key point on the initiative.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bettina, communication, is that one of the key success ingredients for the KfW program, the essential one, or are there other ones?
I mean, communication, of course, is very important in order to distribute the information and the knowledge about the promotional programs. However, we have a set of success factors which have to be met in order to make the programs work. First is the public mandate as promotional bank. Second is the very favorable refinancing conditions on the capital market, which allows us to provide very cheap refinancing to all our financial partners. Third is the generals and the very good budget provided to us by our by the main ministry, the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy, which allows us to distribute these funds into interest rate reduction, partial debt relief and investment grants. Without these promotional elements, the system would not work. Communication is very important. What we do is we organize dozens of academies, one-day seminars for energy experts to make them familiar with all the details of our promotional programs and the requirements of the different promotional levels and measures which can be financed and under which condition and so on and so forth. So throughout all the country we have academies, and we also provide seminars for our promotion for our financial partners. So communication is a key.
Okay, thank you very much. Daniel, Deutschland macht's Effizienz is the slogan of the... Is that having a real impact? Do you see that? It's launched by your ministry.
Yeah, so I think it's a great campaign. I always like their fun posters. But in the end, I think it's what this morning was raised, it's transaction costs. We need to become much better at, lightening the jungle of different support schemes that are out there for homeowners, for industrial, commercial sector, and so on. And we're thinking along the lines of a one-stop shop. KfW has this nice, I recently heard the cappuccino effect, that you as a individual can apply for a funding scheme and you just go for a cup of cappuccino, and when you come back, your loan is approved. Hopefully or not. But yeah. So I think we need to become better at transaction costs. Campaigning is important, but even more important probably is the reduction of transaction costs, easy access to funding programs, and so on.
Okay. Cappuccino effect is a great keyword to launch into the break. Out there is cappuccino waiting for you. Thank you very much to the panelists. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you also to the translators back there in the cabins who stayed over time. Unfortunately, we ran a little bit over time, but I think we had a really interesting discussion. So thank you very much. We will continue. Just around 4 o'clock, you will hear the loud bell interrupting or ending your coffee break. Thank you very much for joining us.